Our speaker is Judit Balatonyi from University of Pécs in Hungary. Today, she presents her talk on the topic, How Divorce Rituals Balance Romantic Autonomy and Enduring Commitment in Modern Hungarian Marriage.
Hello, everyone. My name is Judit Balatonyi from the University of Pécs. I'm cultural anthropologist. My talk explores how state policy, personal depth, and romantic ideas intersect to shape the ways Hungarians navigate both the beginning and the end of marriage, using rituals to manage a deep contradiction in modern life. What does a government law designed to encourage childbirth have to do with how a couple ends their relationship? In contemporary Hungary, the answer is almost everything. I will suggest that the modern rituals of divorce are not, as we may assume, a sign of marriage's decline. Instead, they are becoming essential to sustaining the ideal of romantic marriage. This paper draws on a multi-year and multi-sided qualitative study guided by an emergent longitudinal design. The research trajectory evolved iteratively, allowing the focus to shift in response to ongoing data analysis and developing socio-demographic trends. The project began by examining the changing rituals of marriage during the COVID-19 pandemic, then expanded as fieldwork revealed the central enforcing importance of state policies like the childbirth incentive loan. Consequently, the inquiry ultimately centered on the contemporary practices and narratives of romantic partnership, beginning and end of partnership rituals, mostly the divorce ritual in Hungary. To investigate this complex topic, the study integrates three core methods: digital ethnography in Hungarian online communities discussing marriage, state laws, and divorce, 60 in-depth interviews, including brides, divorcees, and service providers, and the document analysis of relevant legal frameworks and public discourse. Beginning in 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic necessitated a shift to remote interviews via video conferencing. This method continues to be used frequently in these ongoing projects. Since the second half of the 20th century, the persistently high divorce rate observed primarily in Western society has, along with its accompanying phenomena, been interpreted by several complementary theoretical frameworks as a decline in the social significance of marriage. Explanation often center on social cultural processes characteristic of late modernity, such as individualization, secularization, and the rise of post-materialist values. The theory of the second demographic transition linked these trends to the increasing wars, describing it not as an isolated phenomenon, but as part of a broader transformation. Andrew Sherlin argued that marriage is losing its character as a rigid social institution. According to him, whereas marriage was once an indispensable institution for social order, economic stability, and reproduction, it has increasingly become merely a vehicle from individual self-realization and emotional fulfillment. This shift is captured by Anthony Giddens' concept of the pure relationship, in which partners stay together only as long as the relationship is mutually satisfying. According to these arguments, marriage has thus lost its formal, almost obligatory normative power and has become just one among many possible forms of partnership. With the increasing prevalence of divorce, marriage is no longer a predictable lifelong framework, but a conditional agreement that can be terminated at any time, contributing to the erosion of the ontological security once provided by marriage. This process is widely considered to have unfolded and to be unfolding across Europe following similar patterns, albeit at different paces. This accepted narrative therefore treats high divorce rates as clear evidence of the weakening and hollowing out of marriage as an institution and of the corresponding decline in the security it provides. This raises a question, however, if these powerful theories explain the weakening social role of marriage, how can we interpret the enduring and at times intensifying significance of its ritual dissolution? If marriage is losing its central role, why is there a need for formal, often complex legal social ceremonies to terminate it? This presentation investigates a striking paradox in contemporary Hungary, where a 2019 state-sponsored loan program triggered a marriage boom by making the loan contingent on marriage and childbirth within 5 years. The policy intensified the conflict between the instrumental function of marriage securing economic and reproductive goals and its modern affective ideal grounded in romantic love and personal fulfillment. The state-mandated timeline for procreation created a coercive situation, while severe financial penalties for divorce were intended as a deterrent, trapping couples in failing relationships. Recent data reveal a surprising outcome. A quarter of divorces now occur among this post-2019 cohort. The policy's real-world consequences created complex and often painful dilemmas for couples, as vividly illustrated by the following post from online forum. Drawing on empirical data and analyze how individualize navigate the tension between romantic autonomy and enduring commitment by recreating diverse rituals as a form of cultural bricolage. Informed by Janet Karsten's anthropological theory of kinship as a performative process, I interpret divorce not as a simple ending but as a conscious ritual of unmaking kinship. The very necessity of ritually unmaking this bond underscores the profound cultural substance of what was created by the marriage ritual in the first place. Far from being linear or isolated events, marriage and divorce rituals in contemporary Hungary exist in a dynamic cyclical processes, actively shaping one another. This unfolds within a social landscape where marriage is no longer presumed to be permanent, nor is it exclusively oriented towards intentions of childbearing. The experience of an ending, divorce, proactively shapes the form of future beginnings, remarriage, while the prospect of a new beginning often serves as the primary catalyst for ritually closing the past. This analysis reveals a flexible, adaptive ritual system where the grammar of ending is borrowed from beginnings, and the fear of dissolution is integrated into the very design of commitment. Divorce rituals frequently mirror the structure and symbolism of weddings, but with an inverted meanings. This mirroring operates on multiple levels. Just as weddings involve public testimony before a community, informal divorce ritual perform similar function. One participant's post-divorce celebration, which she describes in the quote on the slide, acts as an intimate reflection of wedding reception. Here the community witnesses and affirms not a union, but the individual's new independent status. Wedding rituals also create unity through symbolic acts, exchanging rings and ceremonies. Divorce rituals dismantle through parallel inverted actions. This involves the symbolic unmaking of the marriage through the destruction or disposal of shared object from the wedding. By wedding symbols build unity, their destruction ritually performs dissolution. The social reality of divorce fundamentally reshapes how individuals approach subsequent marriages, embedding the possibility of an ending into the ritual of a new beginning. This is not just an emotional shift, but a practical one that alters the ritual blueprint. A prime example of ritual bricolage is the minimalist wedding. Couples act as bricoleurs, deliberately crafting a new ritual by selecting only essential components. An informant articulated this strategy perfectly as detailed in the quote on the slide explaining how their deliberately simple mini-wedding was designed to make potential future divorce easier. Here the ritual simplicity prefigures and normalizes the relationship's potential impermanence. Divorce is no longer a post-ritual event, but a contingency planned for within the ritual's design. This inquiry is present even in first marriages. The testimony from a young woman, which you can read on the screen, reveals how the social prevalence of divorce haunts the ideal of lifelong commitment. She expresses a deep fear of future divorce, despite being happy in her current relationship, showing that the specter of divorce is no longer merely an external risk, but an internal anxiety woven into the very fabric of contemporary commitment. The decision to formally divorce is often catalyzed not by the final breakdown of the old relationship, but the need to formalize a new one. This dynamic is particularly visible when a new life stage, such as a new romantic partnership, remarriage, or childbirth, make the legal ambiguity of an existing on-paper marriage untenable. Financial deterrents often encourage couples to delay legal divorce. However, a powerful catalyst can override these concerns. Uh, the impending birth of a child is a frequent driver. For instance, a pregnant woman explained her urgency, as you can see in her quote on the slide. She needed to finalize her divorce so that her new baby would not be born with her estranged husband's name, which would happen under the current law. In this case, the ritual and the legal requirements of a new beginning compel the former closure of the past. The future dictates the necessity and tempo of ending the past, perfectly illustrating the tick feedback loop connecting to rights of marriage and divorce. The study concludes that the proliferation of divorce rituals in contemporary Hungary signals not a weakening of marriage but a reinforcement of its enduring cultural significance through the ideal of romantic love. My analysis extends Andrew Sherlin's scholarship on the merry-go-round, which posits an unresolved tension between the values of marriage and expressive individualism. While cyclical relationship patterns in Hungary are structurally similar, my findings point to a different underlying cultural logic. Rather than reflecting persistence conflict, Hungarian ritual innovation actively reconciled these two ideals, adapting the ritual system to manage both beginnings and endings so that commitment and individualism can coexist. This framework also regards classic understanding of ontological security. Grounded in the principle of ritual symmetry, this research argues that what is made by ritual marriage can only be unmade by a counter-ritual divorce. The modern marital ideal is sustained by the paradox of romantic love, which legitimizes both the union and its dissolution. Divorce rituals, therefore, are not markers of institutional failure, but essential cultural mechanisms that reinforce the ideal of romantic-based marriage by enabling new beginnings. The Hungarian context, with state interventions like the baby expecting law, generally intensifies this dynamic by entangling economic strategy with emotional life. This reveals a cyclical system where marriage and divorce ritual are mutually constitutive. Ultimately, marriage maintains its cultural significance, not in spite of divorce, but precisely through the creative ritual management of its ending. And finally, thank you for your time and hope to continue this discussion with you at the LAF conference in March.